大家好啊，教授紧急给你们录个视频，紧急。
Hey everyone, quick video for you. If right now, at this very moment, you still don't have a passport or a Hong Kong-Macau travel pass, I suggest you get them right away. Whether or not you plan to travel, just get these two things done. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you understand what I've said, don't ask why, just go and do it. Go on Monday or Tuesday next week and get it sorted, alright? On July 26, a TikToker who works as a visa and travel consultant reminded those without passports or Hong Kong-Macau travel passes to apply as soon as possible. On July 16th, another TikToker shared in a video that after returning from an overseas trip, he was required to submit their passports immediately.
我前段时间不是去老挝旅游了嘛，然后刚回来。
I just came back from abroad, and now they want me to hand in my passport. I was in Laos not long ago, just came back. I had planned to head to Malaysia, Singapore, and a few other countries, but my phone broke in Laos, so I came back early. As soon as I got back, I got a call telling me to hand over my passport. I honestly feel like this whole thing about handing over my passport is a bit of an invasion of my rights. Why do they want me to give it up? What law says I have to do that? Even though I'm not traveling abroad anytime soon, I still think this request is unreasonable. They say it's for personal safety, but it's actually for nothing. I can't say more, it's too sensitive. This topic is pretty sensitive, even though it's not political. On July 28th, some other TikTokers captured footage of long lines at the Jiangsu Government Service Hall, where people were queuing to get passports for international travel. Seems like the situation is really bad. At the Government Service Hall for passports, there are hundreds of people. The line stretches all the way to the elevator. On July 24th, a TikToker from Jiangsu shared that he was applying for a passport to travel to Japan.
办个护照跑路
Going to get a passport just to run away. A comment mentioned, I can't stay in the country anymore. I just got my passport last week. The TikToker then replied, let's leave the country together. On July 24th, a TikToker shared a video capturing a long line at the US consulate in Shanghai, where people were waiting for visa interviews. A TikToker from Laos discussed how many regions in China have recently stopped issuing passports.
不让办理护照了。国内现在有很多
They're not letting people get passports anymore? Many places in China have already started restricting passport applications. The process has become more complicated, and they're asking a lot of questions. Maybe it's because so many people have been traveling abroad in the last couple of years, and the loss of talent and wealth has become massive. The TikToker pointed out that according to 2024 statistics, about 20 of these. For instance, from January to June 2024, Laos saw an increase of 900 to 1400% in inbound travelers compared to the previous year, with a 600% growth from July to October 2023, surpassing 200,000 visitors. People who have never traveled abroad and want to visit Laos or Southeast Asia may be told to go back home when they try to apply for a passport. The vlogger also noted that the number of people coming to Laos to find partners has significantly decreased, while more individuals are arriving to explore business opportunities. He advised anyone who wants to travel overseas to act quickly and apply for their passports now, as the process may become more difficult over time. Even after getting a passport, many individuals may face the possibility that the passport will be confiscated by authorities for safekeeping. Some sources have recently disclosed that the Chinese government is implementing a nationwide policy to collect passports from civil servants, teachers, and employees of state-owned enterprises. Leaving the country now requires multiple levels of approval. This is a clear sign that the government's control over public sector employees has increased. In cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Guangxi, and Shaanxi, civil servants, enterprise staff, and managers of central state-owned enterprises have been ordered to hand in their passports and Hong Kong-Macau travel passes to be stored by their work units. Even lower-level civil servants are prohibited from keeping their travel documents. The passport collection policy was fully implemented in June 2024 or earlier. Mr. Guo, a retired civil servant in Beijing, recently shared with international media that many department heads and deputy heads were ordered to hand over their passports and Hong Kong-Macau travel passes. They said they would keep the passports for safekeeping. If you want to go abroad, you need to submit a written application to your department, get signatures from the relevant leaders, and then send it to the Human Resources Department for approval. Mr. Liu, who recently returned from an overseas trip and works as a department head at a state-owned enterprise, explained that employees must submit their application a month before traveling abroad, providing details such as travel reasons, travel companions, and destinations. If it's for visiting family, there's an additional form to fill out. These procedures weren't required a few years ago. Due to China's economic struggles in recent years, many people have turned to civil service positions, but those already in government warn that working as a civil servant means sacrificing freedom. A TikToker revealed the realities of life as a Chinese civil servant.
公务员其实是一个性价比很低的工作。
Being a civil servant is actually a pretty low-value job.
The TikToker shared that she had worked as a reporter for 12 years, spent 3 years in the corporate sector, and had long-term interactions with civil servants at various levels across the country. Many of her relatives and friends are civil servants, so she has a strong understanding of this group. She explained that while civil servant positions offer stability, the trade-off is a lack of freedom. Civil servants cannot travel overseas freely, and in some cases, even social activities like dining or drinking require prior approval. She is also prohibited from running independent media channels. Once inside the system, it can be incredibly difficult to leave, not because they don't want to, but because they lack the means to leave.
所以你一旦进来了，你就只能在这里干一辈子。
Once you're in, you're basically stuck doing it for life. A lot of people think civil servants have under-the-table income or power. If you think like that, don't even think about becoming a civil servant. Over the years, I've seen civil servants end up in prison. Some are in there for many years, and some have even jumped off buildings.
Since Xi Jinping took power, political purges in China have continued, but government inefficiency appears to be growing. Former Premier Li Keqiang often criticized the issue of inaction during his tenure, even slamming the table in frustration. Recently, the Chinese Communist Party's media has called out officials for selectively enforcing policies and being overly cautious. Canadian-Chinese author Sheng Shui told the Epoch Times that the problems within the Chinese government are more severe than any other dynasty or country in history, and society is in a state of complete decay. The recent incident in Hangzhou, where people drank sewage water along with similar incidents across China, reflects the collapse of government functions. Under the CCP's tight control, officials are not just lazy but entirely negligent, and the government system has lost momentum. The Chinese government's passport confiscation policy also extends to retired individuals. Mr. Guo, a retired civil servant, mentioned a case involving a retired official from a small county in Guangxi. After obtaining permanent residency abroad, the former official returned to China to visit family, only to be asked by his former employer to hand over his passport. Sheng Shui shared, he was only granted approval for 6 months to return after visiting. If he doesn't return on time, his domestic pension will be suspended, which is clearly against national regulations. Sources indicate that corruption among officials is increasing, with some linked to fraud and other scandals. Many of these cases appear to have been supported by high-ranking officials, prompting heightened scrutiny across departments to prevent corrupt officials from evading accountability. In addition to civil servants, employees of state-owned enterprises and banks are also subject to strict passport control. Another TikToker shared that after she left a state-owned enterprise, it took her several months to get her passport and travel pass back. She also exposed the internal practice of passport collection within these companies.
国企离职7个月，终于拿回我的护照和通行证啦！
I left my state-owned enterprise 7 months ago, and I finally got my passport and travel pass back. Then some people said, well, they took your passport, just report it as lost and get replacement. It only costs 200 yuan. Let me give you a simple example. If your WeChat account gets blocked, can you just get a new phone and log in? Even if you have an iPhone 50, you still can't log in. Some other people said, maybe it's a sensitive company. First of all, I'll explain my job isn't classified. But the company's rule is that all middle management and above must register their entry and exit from the country. Then someone else asked, how can they take your passport? Taking your passport is illegal. Let me explain. This isn't called taking your passport. It's called unified safekeeping. Unified safekeeping doesn't mean they're preventing you from leaving the country. It just means while it's being kept, if you need to leave for personal reasons, you can submit an application. You just need to provide your flight number, departure time and destination, daily itinerary after you leave, where you will stay, where you will go, who you will be with, what you will eat, what you will do, basically a travel guide. You don't even know when or if your application will be approved. Do you think I would buy tickets or book hotels in advance? So in simple terms, you can't travel abroad. I wanted to go to Hong Kong with my husband to check out a property, but in the end, we gave up.
A TikToker working in the tech industry said he gave up on all his job offers from banks because he was required to hand in his passport.
因为要上交护照，所以我放弃了所有银行 offer.
I graduated with a master's degree in 2024, and the job search was pretty good. I got 7 offers from head offices, most of which were for management trainee programs, with a few in technical roles at the IT center. But I ended up turning them all down. The reason is simple, because I had to hand in my passport. He added that his decision baffled many people around him, including his parents, friends, and classmates. In their eyes, a job at a bank headquarters is stable and prestigious, and giving up a passport didn't seem like a big deal since they rarely travel abroad. He admitted that, practically, their view made sense. Growing up on the outskirts of a city, he had never left the country in his first 25 years. He only managed a trip to South Korea before finishing his master's degree, using the small savings from his internship. For him, international travel was never a necessity. But his main concern was freedom. He stressed that he could choose not to travel abroad, but no one should be able to take that right away from him. To him, freedom isn't a measure of how often we practice a right, but by whether we still hold that right. He noted that some friends at the bank told him he could still travel if he filed the proper paperwork, but those rules and restrictions clash with his personality. For him, the multiple approval steps for travel weren't just cumbersome. They could put him in a bad mood and make him worry about his supervisor's view of him. That was unacceptable. Many of his friends from his postgraduate class chose careers in banking and asked about any regrets regarding his decision. Despite facing long hours and layoff pressures in the tech industry over the past several months, he had no regrets. He emphasized that freedom mattered more to him than stability. Another TikToker who recently left a bank shared in a video that she got her passport back the day she signed her resignation papers, and she felt a sense of self-redemption. Even primary school teachers now face travel restrictions. An informed source said her friend, a teacher in a small town, had her passport taken by her school. To use it, she had to rely on personal connections, and even a trip to Hong Kong required official approval. In a TikTok video on July 13th, a teacher questioned the collection of passports.
Can't they just give teachers back their passports? The passport law clearly states that the citizens' passports are protected by law and they can't be confiscated for unlawful reasons. I teach language arts and every day I'm buried in grading student assignments. I don't deal with any state secrets or sensitive projects. So why should they take our passports? Are they equating teachers with people working on classified projects? Last week, my mum called and said a relative was about to pass away and she wanted to book a flight to visit. But when I checked, my passport wasn't with me. My mum said, "To forget it, I know you're busy." But she doesn't know. It's not that I'm busy. It's that I don't even have the right to go. My passport was taken, and to apply to travel abroad, there's a whole approval process. By the time I get approval, my relative may not even be around. And let's be clear, the passport is our freedom. What's wrong with going on a trip during the break? It's not like it costs them anything.
Another TikToker publicly urged authorities to return passports to teachers.
暑假到了，是时候把护照
Summer's here. It's time to give teachers back their passports. Summer should be the golden period for teachers to recharge, relax, travel the world, and update their knowledge. That's a legitimate right for educators. But in reality, many places are still imposing more and more restrictions, collecting passports from ordinary teachers, and even limiting how often or how long they can travel. This TikToker avoided criticizing the central government in Beijing and instead blamed local governments. She called out regions that ordered all teachers to hand in passports and used special campaigns to enforce the rule. Some areas set up complex approval processes that treated teachers like senior officials. She believes this has greatly discouraged educators. She argued that taking teachers' passports under the guise of strict management was actually a sign of lazy governance. It violated teachers' rights and pushed education towards isolation. This TikToker shared an example from a follower, calling the passport collection a man-made disaster. He said he had been tracking local controls on private passports and saw rules getting tighter. More regions were adding layers of restrictions on ordinary people traveling abroad. He noted that many followers had messaged him for help, asking him to speak up for their rights. He gave one example. A fan messaged him asking for help. The fan's family had planned a rare cruise trip in 10 days. Although their itinerary didn't specify a country, they still needed passports. One family member, a teacher, scheduled a trip for summer break, but was suddenly told her passport couldn't be issued and her application was denied. The family couldn't get a refund. Hearing this, Her elderly parents were trembling with anger. If the teacher couldn't go, the whole trip would have to be canceled. He said the person later withdrew the request, fearing that complaining would get her arrested or cost her her job.
我很难受。
I'm really frustrated. I don't even know what to say. I can't say that everyone should do things in a certain way, as I respect everyone's views. But now I'm wondering, why is this increasingly restrictive approach being carried out so confidently and without resistance? In fact, since 2018, China has implemented a passport collection and application system for certain sensitive positions. During the pandemic lockdowns, it was promoted under the slogan, "No travel unless necessary." Far from easing up, it has become institutionalized. Some Chinese residents say this so-called normalization essentially turns the freedom to travel into an approval process, aiming to seal off the country. An anonymous Shanghai lawyer said she had heard that civil servants need unit approval to get their passports back. She questioned the policy. A passport is a document the state grants to its citizens, not something issued by an employer. Restricting citizens' rights to travel under the employer's name isn't lawful or reasonable. In a centralized system, returning a passport becomes a reward for loyalty, but setting limits on non-government people violates basic human rights.